morning, everybody. It's a good day. It's a good day. The last few weeks we've been talking about baby Jesus, what he brings to the world and to us. And we've learned a few things, that Jesus brings this hope that through his sacrifice, the worst thing that could possibly happen to us is no longer the end of the story because of his resurrection. He generates this hope that's deep down inside of our hearts, that we can hope for a better future, even in the middle of our pain. He brings this love that shines through us. It's this idea that we're called to be the love of God to those around us. It's not a passive thing. They will know that God loves them by the way we show our love. We talked about that. We talked about this peace that Jesus brings, that we're called to actively bring and introduce into our relationships, into the world around us. It's this idea of not just being a peacekeeper, trying to keep the peace, but it's this idea of being do you guys see that? Dang, what in the world is that? That's going to distract me all this time. Little buddy, hello. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's this idea that we're called to be peacemakers, to bring peace into the relationships that we are part of. And today, I get to talk about joy. Joy. Now, when we think about joy, we think about the good things in life, all the great things that make us smile ear to ear. And we think about these great things, like weddings and relationships and being all lovey-dovey. Oh, that's so cute. Love generates this idea of joy, right? Newborn babies bring so much joy to our families and our lives. A promotion on our job that we've been praying for and hoping for and just praying for God. And then finally, yes, our boss calls us into that office and he gives us that job. Or she gives us that promotion that we've been hoping for too. A good dinner party brings a lot of joy. Family, friends, laughter, everybody together. Joy. That one time the Lions won a couple weeks ago. Joy. Did you guys see the look on the? There was so much joy. You would think we won the Super Bowl or something. It was so much joy, so much joy. There's this one thing. Do you guys watch America's Got Talent? Have you guys watched that? Yeah. You've heard of it? Yeah. There was this contestant on there, Cody Lee. Oh, is it up there? Do you guys know this? Every time I watch this video, I literally bawl, crying because it's just so awe-inspiring. He and his mom are standing on the stage telling their story, and we find that he is autistic and he's blind. He's blind. But from a young age, his mom realized that he loved to sing and play music. So she leads him to the piano, and he begins playing the intro to Donny Hathaway's, what is it called? A Song for You. Oh, gosh. If you guys have seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And he starts playing it with this effortless skill that oh my gosh, it was just so beautiful to watch him. And he was loving every moment of it. And he was coming to the end of the song, right? And it's quiet. The room is quiet. And he sings that last note. And the room erupts with this loud, boisterous noise. And it's like, yes, Cody, woo! And there's so much joy in that room. And then Gabrielle Union hits the golden buzzer and gives them the chance to live out a dream that he's probably been wanting to live out for years. In that moment, everything that he had been wanting and hoping and working for was released in that moment with golden confetti all over around him. Everyone's crying. Their family rushes the stage. It's just a joy fest. So much joy, so much happiness, so much love, so much excitement. Joy. Joy comes from the good things in life. The good things in life make us happy and put a smile on our face. Inspiring videos on YouTube can make you cry tears of joy. But I have a question. What happens when life isn't good? What happens in our lives when we don't get what we wanted? When it doesn't go the way we expected it to? What happens when we don't get the golden buzzer? What happens when we actually get eliminated from the thing that we've been hoping for and praying for? What happens then? What happens when the Lions don't win? It's just normal life, right? What happens when no one shows up to the party that we planned, or or it doesn't go the way we wanted it to? What happens when we get laid off from the job that we've been praying for a promotion at? What happens when that happens? What happens when we can't seem to get pregnant no matter what we try? What happens when our love life seems to be a series of unfortunate events that constantly play over and over again? What happens when life does not go the way we want it to? Because if we look at it, all these things spark joy in our lives when they go the way we want them to. But what happens when they don't? The ancient biblical authors in the Bible attempt to explain and understand this idea. And the wisdom that we learn from them is that joy is not a reaction to life's circumstances, but joy is the faithful choice to hope in God's goodness. Joy is the faithful choice to hope to see the goodness of God. That is what we learn joy is. So joy is this thing that comes from our hope in Jesus, where we remember what God has done in the past, right? We remember what God has done in the past and hope for a future where he'll do it again. And even if he doesn't, because of our hope that Jesus brings, that death is not the end anymore, that the worst thing that could possibly happen is no longer the end of our story. Even if it doesn't happen, and the worst thing that we fear happens to us, we can still hope for a better future right in the middle of trouble. And that is what inspires our joy. This is the biblical understanding of joy, and we see it play out in the story of the Israelites in the Old Testament of the Bible. As they were suffering from their captivity in Egypt, they were going through a lot of really bad things. Imagine this, though. You're suffering in Egypt, and there's a lot going on, but then God raises up this man named Moses to lead you and everyone you know out of Egypt and out of captivity into freedom. And as soon as Moses convinces the Egyptian rulers, the Pharaoh, to let your people go, to let my people go. Do you guys remember that? To let the people go. As soon as he does that, this man changes his mind and sends an army after all of you. You're vulnerable. You don't know how to fight. None of you know how to fight. There's no weapons. They didn't have any armor or defense. This was a community of people who were enslaved to these people, to the Egyptians. So here we are at the banks of a vast sea that is uncrossable. In front of us, there's our freedom. Behind us, there's an army chasing us, and we can't even get to where we're trying to get to. And then you look over to the left, and you see Moses lifting up his stick like he's a crazy person. And all of a sudden, the waters part, and there's dry land for you to walk across. And now all of your people, all of the people you know, your family, your loved ones, are moving across this crazy story. This is ridiculous, actually, when you think about it. These people are moving across the sea on dry land. The waters are parted, and they can escape from the Egyptians. And God redeems his people. God redeems his people. You finally have your freedom, but you've met your freedom in the middle of a desert. There's no water. There's no shelter. There's no food. And there are other countries and other people around. You're vulnerable. You still don't have an army. You still aren't like an organized civilization yet, right? But even in the middle of that, they still chose to rejoice. They still chose to rejoice. The presence of their joy was not determined by their current struggle, but by the hope that they had in God's goodness. They seen him do something amazing, so they rejoiced. Psalms 105, verse 43, speaks into this story a little bit. It says this: he brought his people out with rejoicing, his chosen ones with shouts of joy. And later in Israel's story, years after all this stuff happened, they're finally a community of people. They have a king. They have all this stuff. And then they are overtaken by foreign empires. They're overtaken by foreign empires. and suffered underneath their oppression. And this man named Isaiah, a prophet or a person who communicated the heart of God to his people, looked for God to do what he did before with Egypt, to do it now in Isaiah's day. This is generations after. So let's read Isaiah 51, verse 10 through 11. It says this: "Wasn't it you," talking of God, "who dried up the sea?" Does that sound familiar? "The waters of the great deep, who made the seabed a road for the redeemed to pass over. And the ransomed of the Lord will return and come to Zion with singing, crowned with unending joy." He's remembering what God did for his people in Egypt. And he's saying God will do it again so we can rejoice. Imagine being trapped in captivity under oppressive rule, right? This is Isaiah's story. Generations after your ancestors had been freed from Egypt. Imagine seeing all these nations succeeding and thriving even, being terrible and being oppressive and destructive, destroying everything you've known and you've loved, and they're succeeding and thriving in their pursuits in this. And here you are, loving God and others, seeing your livelihood suffer and still choosing to be joyful, choosing to believe that there will be joy one day. That's the beautiful thing about this biblical idea of joy. It's that hope leads to joy, and their hope led to the joy that we see in Jesus. Generations after Isaiah, God had heard their tears and seen their faith and acted on his plan of redemption by coming near. Do you see? Our joy doesn't come from our life's circumstances. Living with joy is not living in the light. It is having light in the middle of darkness. It's having light in the middle of darkness. Now, wow, I just got really, anyway, growing up, I didn't have the ideal picture-perfect family growing up, you know. As some of you may even relate to that story. Not to say my childhood was bad at all. It wasn't terrible. We got through what we needed to, and we did what we had to do to survive. And we're better off on the other side of it now, right? But growing up, my parents had quite a toxic marriage, you know. And it didn't always go over too well, you know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of turmoil and chaos growing up for me and my family and my brothers. They had a toxic marriage that resulted in a lot of separation, right? The only reason I tell you this is not for like sympathy or anything like that, but because the last time that they separated, when my world that I thought was supposed to be this family that's this unit that loves each other and that's full of love and life and laughter, this image of my mom and my dad and my brothers living in the same house, in the same life, in the same space, was coming to an end. Everything that I had hoped for was dying right in front of me. When the pillars of love and security in my life turned into an ocean of uncertainty and fear, that is when I turned to God. I asked him a question. I said, God, why? 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 When I looked at the other kids in school, I'd see families that were put together nicely, and obviously they had their own problems, of course. But I'd ask God, why? Why did I have to experience these things? Why did I have to sit and mediate between my parents as a child? Why did I feel the need to take care of my brothers as a child? I asked God, why did I have to go through these things? And that night where everything turned to the worst, God gave me a peace that helped me go through that moment with the strength, I don't even know how to explain it, with like a strength that just helped me endure. Obviously, I cried like a baby after that. after that moment passed, I cried like a baby. Oh, God, I grieved so hard. It was bad. It was tough. But in that moment, God gave me like a strength that I didn't know that I could have to deal with what was going on in my life. Because in that moment, I felt this peace. I had been there. My parents had, like I said, they separated all out. I had been there for their second marriage. I was there when they went and got their marriage license. I was in the line, and I remember my dad saying to my mom, he said this. He said, so this means we're married now, right? And I wouldn't know what that meant until much later. But I remember that moment. I remember the love that they had, right? And there I was again at the end of their story together at the courthouse, just like before. But this time, everything was ending. It wasn't starting again, it was ending. I was there at the beginning, and I was there at the end. And with the judge's pronunciation, my dream of a happy family was pronounced dead too. But remember, death, because of Jesus' resurrection, even applies to this story too. That death was not the end of my story, my family's story, or any of our stories. It's that we found hope after that. Because not 4 years ago, when I first started coming to this crazy church called Central Church, my family was right out there. My mom, my dad, my grandparents, my cousins, all of us were sitting right out there taking pictures and rejoicing in what God had done for our family. Right there. Where there was darkness and tears and pain, where I thought my life would never be the same again. It wasn't the same again. It was better. God had done something better than I could ever even imagine. Our family was together once again. It wasn't what I thought. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I hoped for. But it was so much better. And there was so much hope that was birthed through that. People wonder, why I walk around with so much joy and so much, I'm always smiling. I'm so giddy. It's because in my darkest hour, in my darkest moments, this is not even in my notes, but even here at Central, in the darkest moments of my time here at Central, when I looked up, I was standing right here, and I looked up to God, like, God, why? What is happening? Where are you, and why aren't you doing something about it? And now I get to rejoice in seeing this band play beautiful music, seeing our volunteers up there make a beautiful production, seeing all of you engage in what God has gifted each and every single one of you. I get to rejoice in that now because of the hope that Jesus gave me, to believe, to hold on, to believe that better days were going to come. That is what joy springs from. Not when everything is good. There's joy for that. But what about when life is not good? There's still joy. There's still joy. So, I don't tell you this story unaware of the reality of life, of course. Life sucks. Life can suck really bad, right? So I don't tell you this story to give you some sense of false hope. And here's the reality of it. Oftentimes, we make ourselves numb to the feeling of joy, numb to hope, numb to love. So, oh my gosh, this thing's throwing me off. Numb to love, numb to the desiring peace. We think to ourselves that it's better to be numb and not feel than to hope, because disappointment hurts more than hope heals. We tell ourselves that love isn't worth it. I'd rather be numb to love, because love lost hurts more than any healthy love. We say it's better to be numb to peace because conflict is worse than just walking on eggshells. We say we'd rather be numb to joy because it's better to feel nothing sometimes than to try and see the good in our lives again. Can you relate to that? Have you ever been in a place in your life where you have seen everything go wrong and hoping again just seems foolish? Hoping again seems dumb. Hoping again seems like a waste of time and space and energy. Can you believe to hope again? Can you believe to hope again? Because we need to realize a couple things. Joy is not an escape from our grief. It is an escape from the darkness. Rather, it is a light in the middle of the darkness to help us bear it. Psalms 126, let's read that. It says this: when the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. It was like a dream. Our mouths were filled with laughter then, and our tongues with shouts of joy. Then they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord had done great things for us. We were joyful. This first part of this psalm is a reflection on what God had done in the past for these people. This is Israel's story. They remembered what God had done before in joy and rejoiced in it. But there's a tinge of like sorrow here, right? It doesn't say God did do great things. God is doing great things. He said the Lord had done great things for us, and we were joyful. It's this idea that when we want joy, we can't escape grief. To feel joy, we have to deal with the grief. And that is why sometimes it feels better to stay numb. But let's read on. It says this: restore our fortunes, Lord, like watercourses in the Negev. Those who sow in tears will reap with shouts of joy. Though one goes along weeping, carrying the bag of seed, he will surely come back with shouts of joy, carrying his sheaves. Here's the interesting thing about this. When it says the watercourses of the Negev. Now, watercourses, we can assume that means like a flowing river or like some type of water that is moving. But Negev is a desert. And what happens when there's a big amount of water flowing through a desert is that it starts to renew things that were dead before. It starts to bring life to a situation that was desolate. What this author is saying is this. They're asking God to restore them, their desolate state, like a watercourse in the desert, like a river in the desert. Because those who sow in tears, those who deal with their grief, those who go along grieving, will reap with shouts of joy. Though one goes along weeping, crying, hurting, they'll come back with joy, carrying the abundance of what they've gone through, because it wasn't worth nothing. It wasn't all worth nothing. It all amounted to something good. It's the tears that we cry out in pain and grief, holding on to hope that seems lost, that leads us to a future filled with shouts of joy. Psalms 30, verse 4 through 5 says this: sing to the Lord, you his faithful ones, and praise his holy name. For his anger lasts but a moment, but his favor a lifetime. Weeping may stay overnight, but there is joy in the morning. Sorrow may last while it's dark, but the light will shine again. Weeping may last through the darkness, but there's joy in the light. It's available to us. It's there for us to grab. Can we believe that? Can you believe that? Can you hope to see goodness again, even in the middle of the darkness? Because, like I said, there's a difference between grief and numbness. Grief leads us towards a healthy life. Numbness keeps us stuck. We can't heal when we're numb. We can't become a better us when we're numb. So when we avoid our feelings, when we avoid the pain in our lives, we'll never grow. But if we deal with the grief and we sow our tears, we'll reap the joy. That's the idea the Bible is presenting here. Sorrow may last for a night, but the light will shine again. And that's the other thing about joy we need to realize, that joy gives us this ability to see our lives, our world, our stories in a brand new lens. While it's easier to succumb to numbness because of the trouble in our world, in our lives, in our stories, joy changes the way we see our circumstances. Joy is the light in the darkness that helps me see what God is up to. And as we come to a close, and I invite the band back up, what I've learned through life is that I'm still young, obviously, but life doesn't always live up to our own expectations, right? I'm 25 years old, and when I was 18, I thought by 25, I was supposed to be a fully functioning adult. Anybody else? Yes. I thought, when I get to 25, I'll be married, I'll be in a house, I'll have a job that makes sense to me, I'll do this and that stuff. Life doesn't always go the way we think it's going to go. But if I had to trade my vision for what life would have been, what I thought it should have been at 18, for what life is at 25, I'd be missing out on a whole bunch of goodness and joy. That is the thing. Joy can come even in the darkest night when we choose to see the light. It's available to us. Deal with the grief. I am not saying don't deal with your grief. I'm not saying don't deal with the feelings of loss and anguish that you might feel. But remember that light is coming and that it's available to us. That's what joy does for us. Life doesn't always go the way we want. So sometimes we need to step out of our own expectations on what life should look like and ask God, what do I already own? What do I already have? What do I already know? What do I already feel? What do I already see around me that I can rejoice over? I want you to take a few moments right now. Close your eyes. Bow your head if you want to. Submit your heart into a posture that you can communicate to God in. And think over your life. The things that you have, the people you know, the places you've been. Think about the things that can inspire gratitude in your heart. And ask God to show you what you're missing. Ask Him to inspire your heart to see the goodness in the world around you. Ask Him to show you what He's up to and what He's doing. Can you see it? Can you see the joy? Can you see the light? And if you can't see the light, take these last few minutes as the band plays this next song to ponder. What is the grief you're feeling or avoiding feeling, trying to tell you? What is the story that the sorrow, the anger, the pain you're experiencing trying to show you? Then ask God, God, what do you want me to see in this? How do you want me to proceed? God, what do you want me to do with the pain in my heart? Take a few moments. God, thank you. I thank you for not being a God that's distant, that's far away from our grief. A God that's not unaware of pain and sorrow. We learn so much about Jesus in the Bible. And God, we realize that he's way more relatable than oftentimes we give credit. God, that you understand our pain and that you understand our sorrow. God, I pray in this moment that you'd heal our hearts, that you would inspire joy in the hearts of the brokenhearted, that you would inspire joy in our pain, that you trade our mourning for dancing, that you trade our sorrow for joy, that our cloudy days would be sunny again, and that we would have this glimmer of hope to believe that you are good. Even when my life doesn't feel like it's good, even when I don't think I'm good, God, you are good. And for that, God, I rejoice. For that, God, I praise your great big name because you are good. And I know you to be good. God, we thank you for this time. In Jesus' name we pray. Everybody said, amen. Go ahead and worship with us.